From juicing drama to nationalistic witch hunt, the Chinese Olympic team deserves a whole episode on the good, the bad, and the ugly. Welcome to China Insider, I'm David Zhang. Because of Olympic Games copyrights, I will be showing partial images or some blurred images, so I want to apologize ahead of time. This is the Chinese men's gymnastics team, and they lost gold to Japan. Of all the countries you could possibly lose gold to, it had to be Japan. What happened was a substitute athlete performed on the bars and he fell twice, obviously dropping the points below the Japanese team, and subsequently in the team's event they lost gold. And then days later they also lost the all-around to another Japanese athlete, getting bronze and silver medals. Of course, you guessed it, the substitute got torched on Chinese social media. People accuse him of being a traitor to Japan, trading the win. Others say basically questioning his athletic abilities. To this day, his families are being just dragged across the entire floor of China online. It's very strange because getting bronze and silver in any person's eye is already a great achievement. I mean, you're literally top 3 in the world in your respective sport, but somehow that is a bad thing for the Chinese athletes because their only goal is to get gold. Because in the eyes of the Chinese athletes, Olympics is not a sports event, it's a battlefield. And the only winner here is the one that gets the gold medal. Of course, the reason is that so that they can go satisfy the CCP lords and their coaches or the bosses of the coaches and whoever is above them, so that each level can get their end of the month salary and bonuses. And of course, it comes also with the nationalistic prestige they can use to propagandize how great China is because they won gold in the sport. Like I said, if they don't get gold in the eyes of the Chinese athletes, it's like a failure. And this isn't even an Asian expectations joke. It's just how they are. And apparently, there's also a level of pressure involved because I think many athletes are taught to believe that if they don't get gold, their career is practically over and that they will have nowhere to go back in China because they will be seen as a traitor. And some of it is pretty real, especially in sports where it's traditionally considered a strong suit for the Chinese team, like if you lost gold in ping pong, badminton, diving, gymnastics. Now, afterwards, people online were saying it could be because of age, others blame coaches, and then I think fundamentally people are ignoring the fact that China as a general whole has less money now to put into sport because of its dying economy. And obviously we saw this with the Soviet Union, and then we saw this with Russia as well. Their athletes got less competitive after they no longer had as much money to support the program. And we know how much money was being pumped into supporting these professional developments. Essentially, athletes in China are trained every single day for the sport, unlike what many Western countries' athletes do, which is that they participate this after trials and it's more like a personal passion. But in China, it's a job basically. And the entire purpose is training these Olympic machines that are set to get gold in their respective sport. So if chasing after a piece of metal and all the glories are supposed to reflect the beauty of the Chinese Communist Party, then you can expect some illegal stuff to happen. And that's where the Chinese swimming doping scandal comes in. Basically, you fake and cheat your way and then you got caught and then you start to blame others for it. Now, before we continue to this next topic, let me do a short segment on Puritang.
If there is one supplement you want to get incorporated into your diet, it's a good omega-3 supplement. It's the best all-around defender for your health. It reduces inflammation, cholesterol, improves eyesight, and reduces risk for heart problems, as well as helps with joint pain, among other benefits. Today, I want to introduce you to Puritang's green vegetables. Puritang gets their ingredients straight from the high mountains of South Korea, and the omega oils are extracted from purslane and perilla seeds. It's 100% vegan. Now, personally, I've been using Omega for about 9 years, close to 10 years now. I've recently switched to Puritang for about a few weeks now. Here's why. We mostly get our Omegas from fish, right? But that's not the best case for everyone, especially there's the aftertaste. It might not be suitable for vegetarians or vegan. So the most important part, right, we often forget is the actual concentration for Omegas. Puritang soft gels have a much higher content for omega-3, 6, 7, and 9 than many of the brands out there. And some say that they notice there's less hair loss, more energy, lower cholesterol levels, and overall improved health. I think the best part for me is the lack of inflammation or the reduction of inflammation. Other brands also they use this high heat method to extract the oil, which in turn creates a lot of harmful byproducts. Puritang's green vegetable is done using a patented method of supercritical carbon dioxide low temperature extraction, so it preserves the natural properties and maintains high purities. First of its kind. So get it for yourself or as a gift to your loved ones ahead of the holiday season. Use my code DZ2023 and you can receive free shipping globally. Check out my link in the description and comment today.
So the process goes, you have a state-sanctioned cheating program, in this case using banned drugs, and then you get caught cheating. And then you say, well, I didn't cheat. They deny the whole claim. And then later on, they're like, okay, yes, we did cheat, but it's not because of what you think. It's because of all the other problems. And then later on, it goes to basically everybody's doing it, so why can't we? Now, back in 2021, during the Tokyo Olympics, 23 Chinese swimmers were tested positive for this drug called metazidine. And then later on, 11 of those 23 swimmers were found that they're actually going to be competing in Paris this year. So 11 of them out of the 23. Now, 23 is a pretty big number of athletes being tested positive for this drug, which to me sounds like it's a state behavior. This is a government-backed behavior. And then the Chinese anti-doping agency, or CHINADA, basically said, okay, yeah, we went through our own investigation. We found that it was actually a contamination in the food. It's not because we're doping. And so guess what? They just swept it up, secretly cleared their athletes, and apparently that was okay. So that was number one. Obviously, food the excuse. What else could it be? I mean, this is the CCP we're talking about. They lie and cheat their way through everything. We've been exposing fake everything. This whole series, it's about how China literally has fakes on everything. Why wouldn't they cheat in sports? If it means to gain them some nationalistic points or to appear like they're the best, you know, it's pretty interesting that this took so long for it to get attention. But obviously, you know, cheating doesn't just happen with this Olympics. It happened pretty much all throughout the entirety. People get punished for it. But in the case of China, people just get secretly suspended and cleared with really no repercussion. And people are like, oh, but you know, the US has 6 times more positive doping tests than China ever does. Yeah, because China can really fabricate those lab tests. They can do a lot of things that probably wouldn't be done in other countries. Now the US is launching a federal investigation into this matter. And then you have the World Anti-Doping Agency, which is WADA, and I have to really criticize them here because basically after learning about the so-called contamination in food causing a drug doping positive result, they're like, okay, we acknowledge that that's the case, but we're still going to let them off this time. And in exchange for that, which is the IOC coming in, and you know, WADA is partly funded by the IOC, they leveraged Salt Lake City, which is set to host the 2034 Winter Olympics, to say that this was written into their contract, that they have to lobby the US government and president, future and current, that they will stop investigating this matter into those 23 swimmers and basically let it go in order for them to host the 2034 games. And so the agency, WADA, that the US has long called for basically that this is a corrupt agency and that they're really not enforcing this anti-doping, the sports integrity issue here, is now telling the US that if you want to host the 2034 games, you got to let this one go. Clearly, some deals were made between the CCP and the IOC, and subsequently the IOC with WADA. Now, fast forward to 2024, like I said, the 11 swimmers of the 23 are competing in Paris, and then we found out that there's more doping scandals involving them. But before I talk about those, this time though things were different. Some of the top athletes from China that were involved in this part this year didn't win gold. In fact, they didn't perform as well as a whole. So it's almost like, now obviously they were tested more throughout the entire event, which gave them less opportunity to use those drugs again. And I don't know if that has a direct correlation to their performance being lackluster. Obviously, they were still getting bronze and silver, so it's not like they were just suddenly dropping to like 7th place or anything like that. But clearly, they weren't getting gold medals anymore. And then the New York Times uncovered through these secret documents that 3 of the 23 athletes, again, they were caught doping, and that WADA was aware that those 3 had prior been tested positive for different steroids as well. Again, this time, the Chinese authorities accepted that they were suspended and then cleared with no other authorities overseeing it. So that's the second time. They weren't ordinary swimmers. 2 of them would go on to win gold medals in Tokyo, and one of them is a world record holder. And then more recently, 2 more athletes tested positive again for another performance-enhancing drug. And this time they blame a hamburger they had in Beijing, which contained this contaminated, beef that had this hormone in it. So that's the third time. Apparently the beef had this powerful anabolic steroid in it, and they just happened to ingest a trace amount of it. I wonder where I can get some anabolic burgers. I'd be dying to grow some muscles if that's how easy it is to get it at McDonald's. But seriously, burgers? Come on, this is just ridiculous. So like I said, throughout the entirety of these 3 times that they were caught doping, the Chinese authorities basically said, okay, yeah, we suspended them, and then they were later cleared after their suspension. Now, there's really no reported, transparency in terms of were they actually suspended, or were they just kind of been like, okay, yeah, because we're a government system officially allowing this to happen, that suspension was obviously just for the public eyes. Now, to talk about those disappointing results, right? Again, they're really not disappointing results, but in China they are getting bronze and silver medals. One former diver from China, Gao Min, came out to defend the teams, saying that because they were tested several times a day, it was really putting a lot of pressure on the athletes. Look, this is a urine test. This is peeing, right? These athletes probably pee that much, 5, 6, 7 times a day. They drink a lot of water. So it's not like they're getting their blood tested 7 times a day. I think they're fine getting their urine sampled 7 times a day. Now, one Chinese swimmer did defy the sort of resulting trend of this whole scandal. He went on to actually break a world record, Pan Zhengle, in the 100 meters freestyle, beating some of the race favorites. So I guess that's the good part, where the rest of the bad and ugly show. Alright, that's it today for the episode on the Chinese doping scandal in swimming, as well as how nationalism got to one of their gymnast athlete. If you enjoy the content, leave a like, comment below your thoughts, and subscribe to our channel. Until next time, bye-bye.